Good evening and welcome to the 985 Workbench. I'm Chuck and my call is NA3CW, tonight's host for the Workbench. I'm located in beautiful Parksburg, Pennsylvania. We meet every Monday at 8 p.m. on the W3GMS Parksburg repeater, 146.985 megahertz. The PL tone to access the repeater is 100 hertz. For those who use tone squelch, on receive, the repeater transmits a squelch tone of 94.8 hertz. Newcomers are very welcome. We encourage all stations to check in. Take a look at the repeater website located at www.w3gmsrepeater.com. It has a lot of information, including technical articles, pictures, and repeater etiquette and history. Please be aware that on occasion, the repeater experiences intermod interference. Please run maximum power or be prepared to check in digitally through Echolink or All-Star. We want to hear you. To be able to use Echolink or All-Star on 985, you need to register with us. Directions for doing so can be found on the website, W3GMSrepeater.com. Also, when intermod is present before starting a transmission, give a short call. Am I getting in okay? Once the host, me, confirms that, then you can share your longer comments. Here on the Workbench, we focus on answering general questions of radio theory and operation. Additionally, we invite each station to briefly comment on your amateur radio activity for the past week. When checking in, please indicate if you have a question for the Workbench. If you don't have a question, still check in. After all stations have checked in, we will first share what we've done this past week using the roundtable format. Please write down the call of the station that checks in right after you. When you have finished your comments, turn the mic over to that station. Once we have made all our comments, we will start the question and answer portion of the Workbench, operating as a directed net. I will call a station that indicated having a question, and then for stations who wish to respond to that question. Wait to be recognized by net control, me, before beginning a transmission. This helps us handle the questions efficiently and keep the net running smoothly. At times, it helps for two stations to pass the mic back and forth to help clarify the situation or pass information. Feel free to do that as needed, and then pass the mic back to net control. Some things to remember. Don't be too quick to talk. Pause a couple seconds before hitting the press to talk switch. This is good repeater etiquette, and pauses are especially helpful for those on All-Star and Echolink. In other words, give them a little space to jump in. When you do click the PTT button, wait a second before starting to talk. We don't want to miss what you have to say, including the first parts of your call. It takes a moment for the repeater to process your PL tone. Also, the repeater has a 3-minute timer. It's the law. If you talk more than 3 minutes without letting go of your mic button, the repeater completely shuts off until you release your push-to-talk switch. So every 2 to 3 minutes, release the mic button for just a moment, and then you can continue. Before we begin, I want to say thanks to all our Workbench hosts. They are the ones who help make this happen, and if you may be interested in hosting the Workbench, please contact Jim, AF3Z, or any of us, and we'll be able to help you get started. Lastly, please join Greg, W3DIB, for the Christmas edition of the 985 Roundtable on Thursday night, 8 p.m. Be there or be flat. At this time, we're going to start the check-in process. Remember to indicate if you have a question for the group. So, digital stations using All-Star or Echolink, I will leave long pauses to make it easier for you to check in. So please be patient. I'm going to leave some time. Digital stations, please call now. This is NA3CW.
Yeah, this is W1RC. Good evening.
Whiskey 8, Charlie Romeo Whiskey, CR. I have a question.
Okay, that seems to be all for Echo Link and All-Star. We'll now take RF, digital, or any other form of station that wants to call in. Please call NH3CW.
Whiskey Alpha 3, Victor Echo Echo, WA3 VEE. No question.
3SC1, Kilo Charlie 3, Sierra Charlie Yankee. No question.
C3 RFG, Jim and Malvern. No questions.
Alpha 3, Lima Hotel. Question.
WA3 King Fox Tango, WA3 KFT.
Alpha Foxtrot 3, Zulu. No question.
Kilo Delta 3, Echo Echo. John, no questions.
Question.
Kilo Delta 3, Alpha India Sierra, KD3 AIS, Tim and Malvern, no questions.
Okay, here's the list we have so far. W1RC, Mr. Mike. W8CRW, CR. WA3VEE, Ron. KC3SCY, Luke. KC3RFG, Jim. AA3LH, Leon. WA3KFT, John. AF3Z, Jim. W3KZG, Scott. And KD3AIS, Tim. Do we have any other stations, RF or digital? Please call.
Kilo Delta 3, Echo Echo. No questions.
Okay, gotcha, John. KD3EE. You're the tail gunner. So, any other additions, corrections, or relays?
Checking, sorry, Chuck. No question. C3OOK, no question.
Okay, we got Harvey, KC3NZT, and we've got Bill, KC3OOK. Anyone else?
This is WF3FES Fred Coatesville. No question.
Victor 3, Juliet Golf Bravo, no questions.
Okay, we have added to the list. We have, let's see, I think I left it off with Tim. KD3EE, John. KC3NZT, Harvey. KC3OOK, Bill. W3FES, Fred. And KB3JGB. One last call for the 985 Workbench. Okay, we'll draw a line under it for now. We have questions from CR and Leon. Anybody else think of a question in the meantime before I get started? I'll take that as a no, so let's begin the roundtable portion, beginning with Mike, W1RC. In Marblehead, Mass., this is NA3CW.
NA3CW and the Workbench is W1RC in Marblehead, yes, in Marblehead. The letter R does not exist in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Say good evening to everybody. I don't have any questions, and just thought I'd check in briefly. Wish everybody all the best for the holidays coming up, which not too far away now, a couple of days, and it'll be here. So all the best to you folks down there in Pennsylvania, in PA. Turn it over to CR. I heard CR check in after me, and I think he had a question. So go ahead, CR. W1RC, standing by.
Very good, Mr. Mike. Good evening, all. And Chuck, thanks for taking the chair tonight. This week in ham radio is pretty standard, with the one exception of a stupendous breakfast. Great showing. With that, let's go to Ron, WA3VEE, WHCRW. I hope you got the pictures.
Very good, CR. I certainly did, and thank you. I'll comment on that in just a second. This is WA3VEE over here in Westchester, and finally very happy to be feeling much better. One of these very, very, very deep colds. Fortunately, don't believe I caught COVID from the XYL. She's still recovering from that, so probably another day or so, and she'll be somewhat back online. Probably not up to full frequency yet, as the power company would do it. Anyway, Chuck, also I echo CR. Thanks for running the net tonight. Very good. And most of my activity in ham radio, of course, muted by sickness since last week, but very happy to host the first inaugural Zoom meeting for our Winter Field Day coming up the end of January. The last full weekend in January will be our Winter Field Day. Again, we're operating as Whiskey 3 Romeo, and this is the first meeting headed up by our new Winter Field Day chair, Keith, KB3ILS. And always very happy to host those meetings for the group. Most of my activity actually in ham radio, of course, before I get to that, sorry I missed the breakfast on Friday for obvious reasons with sickness, but I think it was the best decision. I thought about you guys the whole morning, that's for sure. And but you know, I really would not have made very good company, and also definitely would not be fair to infect everybody with what I had. So it looks like everybody had a great time. I want to thank Scott, Jim, AF3Z, Scott, W3KZG, Jim, AF3Z, and of course CR. Yes, I did get all the photographs so far. I think Joe still has some that he's going to send over to me. So I want to thank everybody for getting those over to me. I will be putting them on SmugMug. Get everything consolidated. It should be the next day or so for sure, but certainly before Christmas time. Most of my ham radio activity occurred within the last 3 hours. And what it was I had a really great time up at the field day site checking out the lower 40-meter dipole. And I have some photos if anyone's interested. I sent those to the core group already in a SmugMug link, but it looks like our 40-meter dipole is doing fairly well. I made one contact with Indiana on that dipole this evening, and it was just really great to get up there to operate again. I realize that now that scratched the itch, but now the itch has turned into a rash, so I need to get up there and do more operating. So looking forward to more field day stuff, more field day planning, more field day activities. Keith is doing a phenomenal job at herding all of us cats together to get that job done. So it's going to be a phenomenal time. So if anybody I hope everybody is interested in coming up there for at least a little bit to spend some time and operate the last weekend in January. One last thing. on January 3rd, for anyone who is thinking of upgrading, taking the exam to upgrade their license, or if you know anyone who is considering taking their technician class license test, we already have 6 registered examinees for the January 3rd Northern Delaware testing site down in Claymont. It really is only a half an hour away. It's not that far at all. And so if you are inclined to upgrade, it's a great group. We've got Travis there, myself, Alex, K3CIM, Vic, KC3TYX, and a whole bunch of, there's some heavy 985 users who are part of the VE team, and I'm just happy to be part of that team with them. So that's January 3rd. For me, that's enough. So let's turn it over to Luke and see what he has to say. KC3SCY, WA3VEE.
WA3VEE, this is KC3SCY. Well, Ron, it's good to hear that you're sounding better. So, and good that the 40-meter dipole's working good. So here last week in ham radio, haven't been doing a ton. I was over at Joe's house working on the riser for my desk, and that's coming along pretty good. I'd say we're 85-ish, not to 90% done all the staining. Then we have to do the urethane, which I think we were going to do 1 or 2 coats of that. And then it will be all done. So that's coming to the final stretch there. And let's see, tomorrow's my last day of school before winter break, so that's good. And I've just been working on this transmitter I'm building. Me and Joe cut out meter mounts for the power supply, and they look really good. So I was just getting out the bus wire so I could do some wiring. Well, I'll keep it moving here, and I'll turn it over to Jim. This is KC3SCY.
KC3SCY, thank you, Luke. This is KC3RFG, Jim here in Malvern. I would like to also pause and thank Chuck and A3CW for hosting this evening's Workbench. Thank you very much, Chuck. Not too much going on in the Ham Shack this week as well with all the holiday stuff going on. The only thing ham-related that did happen in the past week was I have a Pi 4 that runs a ham clock that's on permanent display here in the shack up on its own little monitor up to the right, and it suddenly died on me, so I had to do a little troubleshooting and found out that its micro SD card, which runs the whole operating system and everything in it, had died. So I had to get a fresh card and re-educate myself quickly on YouTube about how to install the Raspberry Pi operating system and then how to install the ham clock again. But it was all pretty easy, and most of it came right back to me and got it all back in operation. I sure like having to, being able to glance up there and look at all the solar conditions and that kind of stuff instantly and see the ISS track, and it's really nice to have as part of the shack. So I'm glad I got it going. All right, that's about it for me. I will send it over to Leon, AA3LH from KC3RFG.
All right, thank you, KC3RFT. This is AA3LH. You notice I'm early on the net. There's no bus stop. We have Chuck driving a sleigh. Those sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? Well, there's sleighs, you know. There's no exhaust pipes to wire up and no wheel bearings to check. Unless you want to say the thing has a ski for a wheel. When Chuck hits the gas, man, just watch her peel. You know, that type of stuff. But anyway, what I did on ham radio this week is I went to the breakfast. Had a good time there. Hung out with my usual 80-meter friends that I hang out with. And also I hang on the 985, but just enjoy. I didn't do anything spectacular, running around doing things, but I do want to say this. I was told by this workbench to put a 1-to-1 choke balance on my G5 RV, and people I used to hang out with, I came up 2 dBs on their meters. and it tunes up better than what it is. So that was a great idea, guys. If you got one, maybe you want to think about putting a 1-to-1 choke balun on it, because it does work. All right, it goes over from one turkey, from Gobbler's Knob to the other turkey. John, WA3KFT, go ahead, AA3LH.
A3LH, WA3 King Fox Tango. Okay, very good, Leon. 10 meters was open yesterday, and we talked to a fella in Oklahoma City and another one in Austin, Texas. So, not a normal thing on 10 meters. It's usually a local band like 2 meters is, but the DX is rolling in, and this is part of the band, I believe, that anyone with a license can use, because it was 28435 frequency. So if you got a ham ticket, you can join in the DXing group on 10 meters. The band has been doing that very, very recently on a regular basis. So I was quite surprised that today it opened up. For whatever reason, the locals weren't around, but the one fella in Oklahoma City and the other one in Texas, not a problem. So, hey, try the low bands, not just 2 meters, but use the repeater and keep the heat sinks warm. Make Joe happy. Make the electric meter spin faster. AF3Z, Jim, WA3KFT.
Very good. Thank you, John. WA3KFT and the Workbench, AF3Z. Good evening, everybody. And I have not been terribly active. My CW buddy and I up here have been missing each other. My 10-tech Triton 4 likes to drift for a half an hour or so. Not drastically, but it drifts. And I won't even say that now, but I have not a question for tonight, but there's a little bit of something I'm curious about on the Triton. But anyway, so I try to turn it on a half an hour before we get on. Well, today I turned it on and sat here for about 2 hours, and the other guy never showed up, so I turned it off again. That was the extent of my activity. And the breakfast, yeah, it was a good time. Had some good conversations with folks. Got to talk to Scott there, KZG, and Bill and some other folks were around there. Anyway, we had a good time there. So that's about it for me. And from here it goes to Scott, W3KZG, AF3Z.
AF3Z, this is W3KZG. I'm doing pretty good so far. This extended vacation's got me all messed up. I've never taken off this long before. So I'm trying to plan things accordingly. But ham radio this week, the breakfast, of course. Sat next to Jim, had some good conversation, and saw Phil. Hadn't seen Phil in a while. And so it was good seeing him. And then also today, got up bright and early and shook Joe out of bed, and me and Bill went up and got the old tower and loaded it on the trailer and delivered it to Bill's house. So that's kind of what I did this week in ham radio, other than building the shelves that have been a year and a half in the making for my ham shack. I finally got the stain on them. Hopefully tomorrow I'll get some polyurethane on, and then once that cures, I can put them in place. If that's it, I'll send it to the next guy. I think it was KD3AIS. This is W3KZG.
W3KZG. This is KD3AIS, Tim in Malvern. While I did attend the breakfast this past Friday, which was a great event, and I got to speak to brother-in-law Bill, who taught me all about precious metals mining, which was interesting. I did want to close the loop because a couple of weeks ago, multiple weeks ago, Mr. Leon put out a call for trains, and I answered. And on Saturday night, I had the privilege of traveling up to see Leon at his church and see my childhood trains in operation, 100% thanks to Leon's effort and through no effort of my own. So it was a great privilege to see that, Leon. I thank you for your work, and I would never have known Leon without the repeater. So with that, I will turn it over to John, KD3EE. This is KD3AIS.
Thanks, Tim. This is John, KD3EE, in Landisville. My week in radio, I discovered that my UV Pro, which is my little HT that has the TNC built in, and it does APRS over Bluetooth. I learned that it has a feature to just mute a channel, which is super cool for something that makes lots of digital noise, like the APRS channel. There's also a feature in there that mutes digital noise, and I sort of got fixated on that feature, but it's not that great because it takes a moment for it to recognize the noise. So you'll have it turned up loud to hear someone talking, and then it starts bleeding out all that digital noise very loud. So now it's just muted, so now it's perfect. It's very nice. Another radio I had that feature. I was like, this one should have that. And it does. Take a moment. I'm terminating RG174 cable and SMA. I have to make sure I have a bunch of it on hand because I'll lose the pins or screw it up with solder or whatever, and they're so tiny and easily fouled. So I ordered a handful of those so I can try again, because I had some that just kept shorting every time I put it together. It would short the both sides, so no good. I took my speaker wire doublet out for another test after the breakfast. I found a state game land to activate as a park. Put it up as an inverted V, put the 4-to-1 balun on it, and the new thing is the 1-to-1 current choke. It tuned up easily. It didn't disconnect the USB, so that was nice. And I got some really good performance out of it. I put 1 watt into it to do some FT8 and made like 30 QSOs. So it works pretty well. Let's see. I think Harvey is next after me, KC3NZT. This is KD3EE. If that's wrong, please just proceed correctly.
I hope it's right, because this is KC3NZT. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Chuck, for doing your thing. My week is pretty light. Last week, I think it was, maybe last weekend, with the rain and the wind and all that stuff, my main long wire came down for the HF station. So I'm making up some more of my 30-pound test monofilament mechanical links, so that it doesn't rip anything off the house, doesn't rip anything off the tree, and it just breaks the fishing line. So I got my heat shrink out and the fishing line. I'm just making up some of those. That's the extent of my week. I believe I turned it over to Bill, KC3OOK. This is KC3NZT.
KC3NZT, KC3OOK. Thanks, Harvey. Chuck, thanks for taking the chair tonight. Excuse me. Well, not super radioactive for me this week. The 95 nets. I did work as south control for the simplex net Saturday night, and that was great. That was a lot of fun. Had a lot of good bulk contacts, including I was able to get Jeff, W3GMS, and another Jeff up in Plymouth meeting. So that's about it radio-wise. As Scott said, to thank Joe, we've added another power project to the list here. And thank you, Scott, for the trucking today and the rigging. I appreciate it, and made it nice and simple and very little physical effort. So that's about it here. I'll turn it over to Fred, W3FES, KC3OOK.
KC3OK, W3FES, thank you so much. Not much going on, just the breakfast was great Friday. Got to see everybody, old friends, met some new friends there, and That's about it for me. I'll have to pass it back to Chuck because I was involved with a call and I couldn't write down who was behind me. So NA3CW from W3FS. 73 all have a great weekend and a terrific holiday. W3FS, I'll be clear.
7-3, Fred. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Chuck. NA3CW, KV3JGB. A couple of things other people have done. Breakfast and the field day call. I'm looking really forward to. Breakfast was great. And looking forward to winter field day, of course. I'm not sure if I'm going to stay over. I keep wanting to. I'm not sure if I'll make it, but I'm going to try to be there as much as possible, unlike last year where I got sick with pneumonia and couldn't make it at all. The other thing for me is I got accepted into the CW Ops, CW Academy, Fundamental CW course, so that's exciting. So I haven't done as much CW from last year when I took the beginner's course, so I'm starting that in January and February, and it's coming back, which is good. This is more about learning getting better at being CW, not just learning the letters, but actually getting better at it. So I think that's it for me, short and sweet, and then I think I'm the tail gunner, so I'll hand it back to you, Chuck. NA3W, KV3JGB.
Thanks, Matt, and good, concise reports from everybody. Thank you for that. Before we go on, do we have any other stations that would like to check in? And if anybody else has come up with any more questions before we start that segment, please call NA3CW.
Ski 3, Mike Foxtrot Bravo.
Okay, seems like that's it. Good evening, Mike. W3MFB, NA3CW. What's your week in ham radio before we move on?
No question. It was going to the breakfast. Thanks, Joe, for hosting a wonderful time, and it was great to see everybody. And back to you, Chuck. Let's get the ball rolling.
Thanks, Mike. So, we'll now turn to the questions and answers. We encourage all stations to make comments, observations, or share experiences, and don't assume that your level of experience or knowledge isn't enough. We can all learn from each other and contribute to the discussion, so feel free to pick up the mic and have some fun. And always remember that sometimes the simplest questions are actually the most fundamental and deep. So we're open to simple questions as well as messy ones. So as we go into the Stump to Chumps phase, CR with a question, you're on. W8CRW, NA3CW.
Very good, Chuck. Good evening, all. This is a Bluetooth question. Lots of devices come with Bluetooth. And for some reason, the manufacturers, when they make these Bluetooth devices, must believe you're always sitting right next to them within 5 or 10 feet. Well, that's not the case. So my question is, does anyone make a universal repeater / retransmit device so you can use a Bluetooth device out about 150, 200 feet? General question, back to Ned.
Very interesting, CR. So you're looking for a Bluetooth range extender. So does anybody have any experience with that one? Please call.
Could I ask a question to CR? This is KC3NZT.
Go ahead, Harvey.
What is the input and the output? Is this audio or is this data? Is this USB? What is the desired input and output at the end of the 150 feet?
It's data. I have some batteries, and the batteries have Bluetooth output. So if I walk near the batteries with my phone, I get the information I'm looking for. But that's out in my shed in the backyard. And it goes from the batteries to the phone. No audio involved. Back to Ned.
Harvey.
Okay, for data, I don't have experience with that, mostly because not many things have external antennas, which gives you an option, and also the mandated low power of Bluetooth. So for data in, data out, I don't have experience with that. I do have experience with the audio side of it, but that doesn't sound like it will help you. Back to Ned, this is KC3NZT.
Thank you, Harvey. Do we have any other suggestions? NA3CW.
C30, okay.
Mr. Bill, proceed.
Nothing about it, CR, but I did a quick dive on Google AI, and it says there are Bluetooth dongles that extend range. You can get transmitters and receiver units to place, and there are Bluetooth repeaters, boosters. So they are out there. That's all I can add to it, at least according to AI. Back to that, KC30, okay.
I've learned to take AI with a bucket of salt, but it may be right. Any other comments?
3KZG.
Go ahead, Scott.
There's lots of Bluetooth extenders and transmitters and receivers, but most of them are for TV or audio. And the data, I also have one of these batteries as well, CR. It's a eco-worthy battery, and it has the built-in Bluetooth for basically reading all the diagnostic data that's in the battery. I don't think that there is a easy way of doing it. I don't believe they make a repeater for data, but I will do some research offside, since I also have the same sort of deal. I don't really have a need to see it far away like you would want. I just walk outside close to my trailer where the battery is and I can connect to it, but I can understand why you would want to be able to connect. The only thing I would think that could help, which I don't think they do, you would have to break the battery open and put an external antenna on the Bluetooth. But yeah, those batteries they're sealed, but they're not sealed, but they are, if you know what I mean. And yeah, maybe the company should think about that, maybe putting a Bluetooth antenna on the outside of the battery, maybe a port, so you can plug in an antenna. But I will do some deeper diving, and if I find anything, I will shoot you an email, CR. Back to you, Chuck.
NZT.
Harvey.
I don't know if that's what you're looking for, CR, but if you're looking for basic data, in my home here, I built a shunt that is wired with a remote display. It's extremely simple and cheap. I don't know exactly what data you're looking for, and I'm sure the app is best, but if you're looking for volts, amps, watt hours, in, out, and everything data log like that, that kind of stuff is extremely available, but it does require wires. And I don't know if you have conduit to the shed, although I feel like I remember you did at some point put conduit to the shed. But I don't know if that helps you at all, but that would at least give you a remote shunt that then you could read from inside the house. I have one in my kitchen that reads the battery bank. May not be what you're looking for, but that level of sophistication, which is low, is available. KC3NZT.
Thanks, Harvey. Any other comments before we turn it over to CR?
MFP.
Go ahead, Mike.
Maybe this is a question inside of a question, but couldn't he just have like an old cell phone he's not using, for calls or internet anymore that has Bluetooth, to use that as a repeater? But of course it would have to be powered and all that jazz. Never mind, forget I said anything. But a burner phone in between. I don't know.
Mike, any other questions or comments?
KZG.
Scott?
So I was looking online here, and I've seen people use, believe it or not, Raspberry Pis or a Pi Zero. They have Bluetooth. But you would have to have that out in your shed with the app on it, and then have a portal to that Raspberry Pi to your house to retransmit the data via some sort of web GUI that you would have to find and make work, and yeah, it just makes it more difficult. But I'll keep looking. Back to you, Chuck.
Thanks, Scott. Well, CR, what do you think? W8CRW, NA3CW.
Well, guys, this is not something that's come up yesterday. This is something I've been going around with for a while. And yeah, Harvey, you're correct. I ran wires out to my shed years ago. I made one major mistake. I didn't use large enough conduit, and after a couple of wire runs, the conduit is full, so I can't use it anymore. And but Scott, if you find anything, let me know. I'd appreciate it. I don't like walking out to the shed to see how the batteries are doing. Back to net. Thanks all, guys. W8CRW.
Hello, Harvey.
Chuck, CR, I don't know how packed it is. It could be all the way full, but with a shop vac, it's usually easy to pull something small through, and all that's needed is voltage tap measurement, so the gauge of the wire is irrelevant. I actually use old thermostat wire, which is extremely small and has multiple conductors in it. So I don't know if anything could get through, but for something like reading a shunt, those are just voltage taps. They're not passing any current. So don't know if that's a available option to you, but just wanted to throw that out there. KC3NZT, back to you, Chuck.
Thanks, Harvey. Comments, CR?
The last cable I put through there was a struggle, so I've given up on using that, and I don't see me putting in another conduit ever. That was done in conjunction with running a water line out to the back, so it was a one and done, and I miscalculated my future needs. So if anybody ever does that job, put in something 2 or 3 times as big as you ever think you'll ever need. Back to net.
Words to live by, CR. Okay, let's move on. Leon has a question for us. AA3LH, NA3CW.
Thank you, Chuck, and the rest of the net. Well, I told you, and I proudly tell you that on this workbench, I was told to put a 1-to-1 choke balance on my G5RV that we used to travel with. Right now, it's up in the air, and it is working much better. That brings me to this question. We travel with a van. We have a tri-magnet type thing where you can stick it fast to your side of your van, and you almost got to pry it off with a crowbar, one of those jobs. And on that, we have a ham stick. Now, I wouldn't decide, but I can pull it down and work on the SWRs and get the SWR, SWR real low as it'll go, 1.3 or less. But I was wondering if I would put a 1-to-1 choke balance on that, would that help any? Would that make it better? Just curious what anybody would think. AA3LH.
Thanks, Leon. Just to clarify, you're talking about putting the possibility of a choke balance on the feed line that's feeding a ham stick vertical?
Roger, that's what I want to know if it make a difference. A 1-to-1, like I did my G5 RV, put one of them on that one, if that would make a difference. Just curious.
Well, does anybody have any comments for Leon? Please call NA3CW.
KD3EE.
Go ahead, John.
I have a couple verticals that I've played around with, like, portable things. And I usually introduce those chokes when I'm seeing RF back to the radio and to the computer to kind of, to tamp that down. That's what usually, for me, it's not as much of a performance thing, though it should, I guess, eliminate some noise that would be coming in off the coax. I think it doesn't hurt, so you might want to try it. The only time maybe you don't put one on is if you're counting on using the coax as your counterpoise or your part of your ground plane or something of that antenna. Back to you. It's KD3EE.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Okay, I'll make one. So you got a ham stick you're using as vertical. What are you using for radials, Leon?
I have 14 gauge speaker wire cut at different lengths. If I run 80 meters, I usually have a 30 feet out there or 20 feet. Some 10. They're fastened to the van with a vice grip. They are grounded to the wire that goes to the radio itself. That's what we use for a counterpoise. Maybe about 6 of them I put on different lengths that I can pull it down and switch antennas for different bands. That's what I use for counterpoise. Back to net control.
Thank you, Leon. I would say it's definitely in the couldn't hurt, might help category. For instance, if you there's a little test you can do. It's not conclusive, but it can be interesting. If you slide your hand, wrap your hand around the coax while it's transmitting while you're looking at the SWR, or maybe have your lovely assistant help you with that. Just kind of run your hand up and down the coax. If the SWR moves during that process, you're definitely getting RF back up in the coax. But I would say for any verticals like that, the odds of having some imbalance and having RF coming up the coax, I think it's pretty significant. Whether it's problematic is another matter, but I think it's in the chicken soup category. Couldn't hurt, might help. Any other comments from anyone else before we go back to Leon? Okay, Leon, what you think?
I appreciate the help that I can try it. It's not going to hurt. If it doesn't help, I have it on. It might help, but I don't know that it helps. That's kind of where it's at. But that way it would go out the radio. It would not come back to it would not come back to coax. It would go out the Jeep, go out my ham stick like it should, and guaranteed it wouldn't come back. That's important to me, because when I'm out near Oklahoma and I try and tow back, I want everything to go out to my ham stick I can get. That's important. Thanks for the help, guys. Back to net control, AA3LH.
Thanks, Leon. Do we have any other questions? Or since we're doing pretty good on time because everybody was good and snappy. Jim, you had something you were wondering about too. So first, do we have anybody else that has anyone else that would like to log in or has any questions? Okay, quiet out here in the prairies. Jim, what was your wondering about NA3CW?
All right, very good. I'm glad you gave me time to remember what I was wondering about. My Triton 4, which comes out of the 1970s, that's a couple of years ago. I think it was the 1970s. No, not older than that anyway. And I forget exactly how the VFO and all that is set up. But anyway, it does tend to drift until things warm up, which is kind of normal. The thing that I'm not as clear about, it'll drift up maybe 300 kilocycles. Why don't I say that? It's an older radio. Anyway, maybe not kilocycles, hertz. 300 hertz. It'll go up about 300 hertz or something like that. But if you leave it on long enough, then it drifts back down, and it might even go farther down than it started out. I'm just curious, I can't give you any details on the rig, but what types of things make it drift up and what might be changing later on that makes it drift back down again. AF3Z.
What an interesting question. So let's have some thoughts. Ron, you've been very quiet. Anybody have any thoughts? NA3CW.
I get us started, I guess. This is WA3VE. Well, I don't know much about Bluetooth repeaters or one-to-one current balance, so that's why I'm quiet over here. But my first thought is probably in the VFO area. There's probably a leaky capacitor, but I'm still in a quandary myself about why it would go both directions. It almost sounds to me like it's a heat-related function. But then again, I don't know that radio, but that's kind of where I would start at least thinking. I don't know. What do you think, Chuck? NA3CW WA3 VE, you and everyone else.
Does anybody else have any thoughts or comments?
I don't know if it's relevant, but I have a question for Jim.
Go ahead, Harvey.
It goes up and it's coming back down. Is the fan kicking on or running the whole time?
Ain't no fan. So that's easy to tell you. There's no fan on the rig.
That back to net.
Okay. Interesting. Well, for something that old, a bad capacitor is always an open possibility. But I was also thinking, I don't know anything about the Triton. My ignorance is complete. But I'm wondering, is there mixing going on? Is it a direct VFO, direct amplified to output, or is it a synthesized rig where there's mixers, heterodyned rig, where there's a VFO that gets mixed with a carrier oscillator that gets mixed with another oscillator? I'm just wondering if the drift is not all isolated to the VFO. Maybe the VFO comes up and stabilizes, meanwhile some other oscillator is going the other way. Any comments on that differential diagnosis?
This is AF3Z here.
Jim?
I'm sort of flipping here. It's a yeah, I just lost it. Oh, that's terrible. It is a heterodyne. What am I looking for? Superhet, whatever. It's got an IF in it, and it's got transmitter, receiver, mixer, and so yes, there is. It's not any kind of direct thingamajobber. That's a technical term. Back to you there, Chuck.
Yeah, it's an indirect thingamajobber, a heterodyne thingamajobber. Any other comments?
NZT, just spitballing.
Go ahead.
Is there any chance on a fanless rig, I don't know how many watts it puts out, but on a fanless rig, are you transmitting while you notice this drift? The reason I ask is I'm wondering if there's some kind of heat sink lag. When the chip is hot, the oscillator's hot, it hasn't heated up this heat sink yet. And so it drifts one way until the heat sink stabilizes, everything gets the same temperature, it's dissipating more heat more uniformly, and then it drifts back the other way once it can handle it. I don't know the specific, I don't know anything about that rig, not one thing. But if it's a 100-watt rig with no fan, I imagine it's got a pretty sizable heat sink, and I'm wondering if you turn it on and just start using it, if it drifts one way, drifts back, and then it stabilizes. If it stabilizes in the end, I would look towards heat. If it's not anything related to your transmitting, I would think there's probably a failure somewhere. But again, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about that rig. but it's just something that popped into my head. KC3NZT, back to net.
Yeah, it's got a sizable heat sink that goes across the back of the rig, pretty much all the way. And the width of the rig, this is 1970s vintage. It's not a huge box, but it's a good foot or so wide. Yeah, I don't know. And to answer your question, when I get on and I don't let it warm up, I do notice, it's drifting while we're on the air. And this is CW I'm talking about. But anyway, it'll drift up. And but as far as it drifting back down, it's more like when I leave, it's sitting on here and I'm doing other stuff, and then I come back and look at it, and it's back down a couple 100 hertz. So I don't really know what's going on at that point, except the rig is just sitting there, usually not transmitting. I don't think I've ever been on the air long enough to see it drift back down, but I'm not even sure about that. This was just a fun little interesting pondering question. But yeah, it's definitely got mixers going around, and also, as I recall, the display is not a counter, not a frequency counter, if I am remembering correctly. I believe it just sort of calculates the frequency from some oscillator or something. I'm trying to quickly read the manual, but I'm not doing very well. But maybe that has something to do with it too. I should actually measure the frequency coming out. AF3Z.
W3CWA, you're reading my mind back into the concept of test your tester. How does it look on, even just looking at it on, like some online SDR, you can get that kind of resolution on those. If somebody is, 100 or 200 hertz off, you can see the difference on an SDR. And you might want to give that a shot to test your tester. Back to you, Jim.
Good idea. Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. I never noticed it before. I've noticed it over a period of time now, but it was when I would leave the rig on, sitting here on, usually after we were on like an hour or something, and then I'd come back later and it drifted back down. So if I get any more information, I'll share it back here, but I appreciate the thoughts. It's a tantalizing little question and exploration. AF3Z.
Does anybody have any other final comments for Jim? Or does anybody else have any other questions? W3VEE. Like we had a double. Ron won, of course. And who else was there?
Such an RF bully. That was KC3NZT.
Okay, Ron first.
I couldn't stop laughing at that one, Ari. Really good. Excellent. All very good. Okay. What I did here is I just quickly, I don't know anything about the rig, but I think operationally, what I think you said, Chuck, and what was inferred with a couple other comments, look at what it's doing. Look at the behavior. Look at what you're doing when you see this behavior. Could it be, maybe draw some correlation between, okay, it drifts when it's hot, drifts when it's sitting there. It sounds like a very similar problem to what my TS-130 has, my long tried and true Kenwood over here. But what I did was I went into Google and I just did Tentec Triton 4 drift. Evidently this is a problem with that unit. And it turns out that I just picked one of these, and you may want to take a look at this, Jim. There was dirty trim pots in the VFO section. Now, I know nothing about this radio. Couldn't even tell you what it even looks like from the front panel. But you might get some ideas there as well. But I'd start with what I think was mentioned earlier, as I just said. Try to draw some correlation between what are you doing with the radio when you see this problem. If it's just sitting there, then that will tell you a lot. If it's doing this while it's heating up or whatever, that's another story as well. And then maybe come back to us and we can scratch our heads a little bit more and see what's going on. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. Good old whenever this particular chump, if I'm a chump, can't answer a question, always rely on the mouse and the keyboard. Back to you, Chuck. NA3CW WA3. Oh, let me just turn it over to Harvey if you don't mind. KC3NZT WA3VEE.
Thanks, Ron. The only way I would go with that is I pulled up EHAM real quick. My general assumption is that people that make reputable rigs, Tentec is one of them for sure. They wouldn't release something that is broken. So I sometimes use websites like EHAM to just sanity check and see if it's a known issue with the rig or if it's something that happens with age. And just a quick EHAM check. Half the people say ignore the VFO, the readout altogether, and just talk to the person you're talking to and see what they say. And the other half says you have to constantly adjust it. If everybody said one way, it could lead towards, you might lead you towards there's something wrong, and the other half would lead you towards it just does that. But yeah, I would think that if you're talking to the person and they don't hear your pitch on CW change and you don't hear their pitch on CW change, I would ignore it and chalk it up to a design issue. But if you talk to them and they talk to you and the pitch is changing, then clearly something is moving, and I would lead me towards malfunction. But EHAM seems to be split. Some people say, yeah, it's great, just make sure that you touch up the dial, and the others say ignore the dial and just keep talking because it's fine. So it looks like it might be able to go either way. But if you play with that on the air with the guys at local that you normally CW with, you might be able to pin that down. If they hear you fine, you hear them fine, but the VFO drifts, it might be something to ignore. But if they say, yeah, I mean, I can, you can hear me fine, but you're changing all over the place, then that would indicate failure, something to investigate. That's just kind of where my brain would go. KC3NZT, back to net.
Thanks, Harvey. Back in the day, there was a line of equipment called Swan, and never was anything better named because they not only drifted, they paddled around. They would just move all the time. The old like Swan 350s and stuff. They were known to be unstable. They just were. So there you go. So I guess we'll draw a line on it here. It's after 9 o'clock, and we don't have people nodding off. Do we have anybody that's been lurking out there that just like to get on the list? Please give me a call, NA3CW. Okay, nothing heard. Thanks to all stations for checking into the 985 Workbench. A big thank you to Joe, W3GMS, for making this repeater available for the Workbench. You are invited to use the repeater early and often. It's a great way to show that you appreciate the gift of 985 to the amateur radio community. And finally, again, join Greg Christmas night at 8 p.m. for the 985 Roundtable. And this concludes the Workbench for tonight. Feel free to stick around and carry on. Have a great night. Have a great week ahead. Merry Christmas. 7-3. This is NA3CW. Clear.
NA3CW, this is KC3NZT.
Harvey, go ahead.
Hey, I had a quick question for you that wasn't really ham related, so I didn't want to ask it on the Workbench. But I got a power supply issue, and I don't know which way to go with it. The long and the short of it is I have LED lights that are on my toolbox, so this is quite vain, but they are somewhat functional. But anyway, so the issue I'm running is coming up with a USB power brick, one of those little blocks you plug into the wall that can continuously supply enough current to light these LEDs, which look fantastic. I'd really like to keep them. I've tried probably 7 or 8 brands, all very reputable, and some of them work okay at first, but they can't handle the heat long term. And so in my searching around, it looks like the converters, the voltage step down and rectification in those blocks is kind of subpar. And the only way to get it to work reliably is if it has data communication, so it can use one of those fancy protocols like power delivery or the QC 3.0 or whatever. But either way, they've got to have communication to know what to do. And I need probably an honest-to-goodness 2.5 to 3 amps continuous per LED light strip. And so I have 2 options I can go with, and I was hoping you could speak on them. One is to make your own. Everyone says it's much more reliable to have a 120 to 12 volt switch power supply, and then a 5 volt converter after that, and that is very, very stable. But that involves me building something. The other is using these new, very expensive, relatively at least, the gallium oxide powered USB bricks that seem to be much more temperature stable. Can you speak on that either way? I have no communication, so there's no way that my device can talk to the power supply. But which one, if you had to build it, which one would you do? Would you try the off-the-shelf options, which are about $30 per brick, or would you try to build your own power supply and just have it be a switch mode power supply and leave it as that?
If the question is just how do I come up with 5 volts at amps, I mean, there's lots of power supplies you can get 5 volts at amps.
Have names that you can steer me on my Google search? That's all I want. If I could have one per strip and they could put out a 5 volts, 3 amps regardless and just do their job, hot and ground, nothing else, I would be absolutely stoked. But I haven't been able to find that yet. And so it looks like everybody's pushing me towards building a multiple step down rectification switch mode power supply, which is just a lot of work. I'd rather just buy something and put it in. So what is a device like that called, barring putting like a lab power supply where I can dial it in myself on the bench? What's that thing called?
It's just called a power supply. Meanwell makes all grades of power supplies, and they're quite reasonable. And if you want 5 volts at 200 watts, you could get it. But yeah, there's when I need a small regulated power supply, and regulation comes with all these switch mode things. I just get a little Meanwell and put 120 volts in, get my 5 amps out or 5 volts out, and call it a day. You can get them for like $20 or something, and they're bulletproof and they'll just run all day long.
Refer to them as LED drivers.
Well, that depends on they have LED drivers. It depends on how the LEDs are wired. LED drivers, I think, are constant current devices, and they'll vary the voltage to keep the current flowing correctly. But I think that's if for daisy chains of LEDs, as opposed to do these LEDs have individual resistors in them, and they're made to run off a fixed voltage. So tell us about your strings, Harvey.
Probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Things are turning off and turning back on, and you touch them, and these things are screaming. They're at like 140 degrees. So I just want something simple that's got a normal American plug on one end and then terminals on the other, and I'll wire it in. So I'll have to check out Meanwell. That may be just the ticket I'm looking for.
308.
Leon?
Wondering, these black wall warts that we have running to power different things, couldn't he find one of them that he's looking for that would give us 5 volts out? I mean, I'm not sure they're strong enough, but we have some that will run tape recorders and stuff, and maybe you can find one of them. One of them that we call Radio Shack. I know they have a bunch of stuff like that. Maybe they could set him up with something, a 308.
Thanks, Leon. I think he's looking for something a bit more substantial. Several amps, and usually wall warts are not doing several amps. But a good outlet for Meanwell stuff is Jameco. You might want to check them out. And there's other places as well, of course. You're on Amazon. Meanwell is a very well-known and respected brand. Obviously, they're not U.S. They're not U.S. manufacturer, but I've always had good luck with them, and other people have speak well of them as also. And they have all kinds of combinations. They have open frame ones, closed ones, you name it. But you can get as big and heavy duty as you want. Now that's again for regulated 5 volts, and I'm assuming if it's running off running off one of those little chargers that it's looking for 5 volts. The other flavor is LED driver style, and those are constant current for strings of LEDs. And they have a different voltage current characteristic. So, Harvey, I'm assuming yours are made to run on a fixed 5 volts? NA3CW.
Yeah, correct. I'm going to have to... I'm going to have to figure out, maybe you can give me the phonetic spelling of Jenko. I didn't see anything come up. But yeah, they're rated below what the bricks are rated at. I don't know what I'm bumping up against. I guess I'm bumping up against just inflated ratings is what my suspicion is. But these are only supposed to pull like 2.2 amps at 5 volts, and I'm getting power supplies that are they're capable of minimum, with no communication, minimum 2.4 amps. A lot of them will go way over that, but it needs communications to do it. And my bit of research that I've done is I'm finding a lot of these supplies won't do what they're rated at unless they do have communications and the device is calling for it via the comm lines. And I have no comm lines. These are just dumb light strips. But they look awesome, and they help light up the tools, and so I want to use them. And it's one of those things where once a week I buy a different brand of brick just to see, and everybody's got a drawer full of those things, and everyone at the shop has let me borrow every one of theirs, and it's very weird. I mean, there is one that's made by Beats by Dre, the headphone company, and it's only rated to 1.5 amps, but it worked okay. And then there was one Anchor one that worked okay, but the 3 other Anchor ones wouldn't. And so I'm just sitting here trying to find all these reputable brands to try. None of them are working that are coming in the mail new. It's just the random ones I'm finding around the shop sometimes work. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. This is not a big ask. I just want 2.5 amps per tap, continuous, all day, every day, and be able to handle the heat. So I didn't think it was a big ask until I started going down this rabbit hole. Apparently, I'm asking more than it's willing to do. So I will definitely check out the supplies. But yeah, if you would be willing to give me the phonetics on the Jenko, and I'll do due diligence on Amazon and all that stuff. And thank you, Scott, for sending that link over. I haven't looked at it yet, but I will. But yeah, it's just frustrating, and there's nothing that's more obnoxious than seeing the lights blink while I'm working on something. It's just, this is a very simple ask. So I appreciate it. KC3NZT, back to you, Chuck.
I got Amazon up, NA3CW. I've got Amazon up, and they have a Meanwell 5 volts at 18 amps. Fits in the palm of your hand and costs $17.
Hopefully I can find that. If I find it, I'm going to get that. And then I take it as just screw terminals, which is fine. I don't care what it looks like. It's going to be mounted underneath the countertop that's on the toolbox, so I'm never going to see it. It's just supposed to come on when I flip the master switch when I come in, and then do its thing forever. So I'll try to find the $17 one, and I appreciate it. I knew somebody messed with this, I'm sure. So I appreciate it. KC3NZT, back to you.
Got a 12 volt, 3 amp LED driver, but they regulate differently than I think what you're looking for. So yeah, the Meanwell, I'll send you the link. The Meanwell 5 volt, 90 watt, 18 amp, single output. Yeah. And meanwhile, if it says it'll do 18 amps all day long, it'll do 18 amps all day long. So yeah, it's a nice little compact thing. They're bulletproof. They got all the proper agency doodads, and they're a good thing. So I'll send you the link. NA3CW.
KZG.
Scott, I'm sorry, appreciate it, Chuck. Go ahead, Scott.
There's that link I sent you. I think they're all 5-volt supplies by Meanwell, and they're all different amp ratings. And literally, they're just little white boxes with wires. Your 5-volt DC wires come out one side of it, and your AC inputs on the other side. So you'll have to terminate your own connections on either side, which you're perfectly capable of doing. You basically just figure out what amperage unit you want, and you could take those part numbers or model numbers from the site I sent you and just punch them into Amazon, and they'll pull up on there instead of trying to order them through the website and pay shipping and all that. Just use the model numbers on Amazon. They should come up and get what you need. But those should, like Chuck said, you should be able to tie all those to one of those Meanwells and run them all on one supply, especially the 18 amper. It should do it all day long. I'm going to say 7-3, gentlemen, and have a good evening. It's W3KZG. I'll be clear.
Sorry, Scott.
Scott, 7-3. I appreciate it. I will do that. I had the idea of running some more if I can figure out how to get this work. 18 amps is more than enough. But I just wanted to add some more inside the cabinets that are on either side of the toolbox so I could see stuff. But this looks perfect. It looks like you just supply your own AC cord, and it's good to go. So I appreciate it. Oh, I also got one. Oh, yeah, I just got your email, so I have it, Chuck. Thanks again. I appreciate it. KC3NZT, back to you.
Very good. When you get all done, take a picture of it. We can see how awesome it is. So, yeah, anytime. Yeah, I know Ron, and I'm pretty sure Joe has also had good luck with Meanwell. I've always had good luck with them. They're easy to get. They're very cost effective. I mean, you could not think about building something for that will do what this thing does for $17. It just can't. And this has thermal design. It's got input protection. It'll run in any 90 to 250 volts input, and they're not they've got noise filtering in them, as opposed to junky ones that look the same but don't have noise filtering in them. So let us know how you make out. KC3NZT, NA3CW.
I will. I'll let you know how to make out, and I appreciate it. Let me just, you made a comment earlier, and it really resonates for me, but you're talking about be careful what ChatGPT tells you. Well, I can tell you that, I use it just in jest, just for fun all the time. I'll be doing something that's very specific, and but the information is all public, and I'll show people, the younger guys at work that use ChatGPT for everything. I'll show them, ask them the question that I'm dealing with, and show them how they're completely wrong. Well, I mean, the internet, not ChatGPT, but just the internet forums in general, they were similar, people describing a similar problem. And they were saying that you have to buy the switch mode power supply that goes 120 to 12 volts for like a laptop with high current. You got to put that inside of a metal box that you buy yourself. And then inside the box, you got to get a 12 volt to 5 volt DC switch mode supply, or some kind of DC supply that will go from the switch mode supply to the regulated supply, and you have to build all this stuff. And I'm looking at these people's recommendations, and I'm thinking, this sounds exhausting. This should not be that complicated of a problem. So I will say that knowing what to search for, it helps a lot. And you guys have a lot of information out there, so I can't even imagine if somebody said that's what you have to do, I probably just would get rid of the lights. I mean, it sounds exhausting. So this is fantastic. I'm sure it will work, and I'll send you a picture when it's done. But it already looks great as it is, but only until about noon. Then things start going wonky. So I would love to get all of these USB bricks that I have lying around hooked to stuff. They're not just sitting there; they're hooked to stuff. But you end up with this just nonsense mess of 20 bricks all powering all these USB things, and it just sounds there's got to be a better way. So I appreciate it, and I'll send a pic when it's all done. KC3NZT, back to you.
Yeah, I'm just, as you're describing that mess, I'm just shaking my head going, wow. Somebody on crack or what? Okay, very good. I'm going to head upstairs, but yeah, I look forward to hearing your results. KC3NZT, NA3CW, going upstairs.
KC3NZT, clear.